just tenacity isn't enough. I always think of virtues as ingredients. It's like a good meal. I believe my ambition is a big part of why things have worked for me, but I would argue that along with my ambition, competitiveness and tenacity, humility and patience have been equal ingredients to why I've gotten here. And I think when you think about ambition and tenacity and humility, they seem to be potentially contradictions, but I think they're meeting in the middle, or they're bridges, right? They're pulling from opposite directions, which creates strength. Attention is the #1 asset.
Welcome, Gary.
Welcome.
Thank you, ladies.
So fun to talk to you. Can't wait to dive in.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
So Gary, you have done so many things. What made you decide to write a children's book?
Well, you're right. You know, probably the fact that I love doing so many things. So it's a good observation, Liz. You know, I think over the last 10 to 12 years, I've been very affected by the fact that I've been on a journey of creating content on the internet at the earliest stages of social, right? There's very few people on earth that have pieces of content almost every single day since 2006 on the internet, and I'm one of those people. And that's been obviously a great blessing, and also comes along with its challenges. But what has really caught my attention is probably 7 to 9 years ago, I started to get emails and direct messages that were less about business advice and more about life. And that was because my content was evolving, because now I realize what happened. At the time I didn't realize it, but all I was ever trying to do was make content that was valuable to people. It started with wine recommendations, because I feel like people buy bad wine and spend too much money on it. And then that led to business advice. And then what happened was I was being so specific and tactical with my business advice. Do this on email, do this with your website, do this on Twitter, do this on YouTube, do this on Facebook. And I just kept watching people not do it. And probably around 39, 40, so I'm 48 now, like probably 7, 8 years ago, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't because people aren't smart or they don't know. This goes deeper. This is, you know, around real life emotional frameworks. This is around self-esteem. This is around insecurity. This is around seeking validation. This is with, you know, discipline and patience. And my content started to evolve, and it was really impactful. You know, I started getting very emotional stuff to the extremes of, I mean, not to overshare, but people would send me things that they were on the verge of taking their life. And one more swiping through their newsfeed and a video of mine stopped them. Like things that you almost struggle with. Like, to be very frank, the first 5 or 10 times I got them, I'm like, is this real, or is someone trying to be, you know, nice or dramatic? Really intense stuff. Okay, great. That kind of creates the modern place where my brand sits, right? Cool, amazing, enjoyable. And then it got into the third level, which is getting to somebody at 18, 19, 23, 41 is not as impactful as getting to someone at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so when I started this collectible education, you know, emotional IP called VeeFriends as an NFT, as collectible trading cards, if you go to eBay right now, anyone listening, and type in VeeFriends, VEE Friends, you'll be surprised, very Pokemon-like. But what started to emerge from day one was there was also a huge Sesame Street element. I also am the byproduct of very good parenting, and so I'm incredibly affected by the vulnerabilities of modern parenting. And the cliche things I saw over and over, which is 8th place trophies, created the counter to what we want. You know, we had well intentions with 8th place trophies. We wanted kids to feel good or not bad. Instead, we started teaching kids very early on to fear losing. And so I started getting deeper into emotional intelligence, and also this was happening in parallel with me taking VaynerMedia, my marketing company, from 1 to 2,000 employees globally, and I'm a very HR-driven CEO. And so I started to see the tea leaves changing on especially young adults coming into our workforce. And so it all culminated with, you know, what am I doing here? And I think what I'm doing here as a human being is I'm a purebred entrepreneur, right? And so I have a lot of need to build and create, and a lot of that is grounded in selfish behaviors. I want to build something for me and my family. But I also have, from day one, even as a classmate, and to who I am today, have always had, passed on by my mother and nurtured by my mother, a really selfless framework. And I have a big platform, and GaryVee works for a lot of people, but I'm sure this won't be a surprise to you. GaryVee doesn't work for everybody, right? There's plenty, as a matter of fact, my aggressiveness, my competitiveness, my New Jerseyness, my cursing, and many other things I do as a communicator actually make a lot of people not love my content.
One of the things I always say is a strong voice repels as well as attracts.
I think it's a beautiful way to put it, Gretchen. So I'm aware of that, and I'm empathetic to that. I understand why I might not be the proper cup of tea for someone based, to your point, I have a specific flavor. I'm not water. I'm not water. I've got a specific flavor. But just because I can't be the vessel to deliver good virtues to the world doesn't mean that I can't be behind the scenes of it. And so I created this universe, Accountable Ant, maybe my favorite character, because I think accountability has become a lost art.
Interesting.
Tenacious Termite. I think tenacity is also misunderstood and demonized in a competitive clown. Patient Panda and Patient Pig, who stars in this kid's book. And so I've created this incredible universe that I'm very proud of. We're very early. I truly am on a Sesame Street, Pokemon, Marvel, Star Wars, Disney journey. And I'm in year 3, 4 of hopefully the rest of my life, and hopefully that's 50 healthy years. And so, Kids Book was a natural part of it. Just like we have cartoons coming out on YouTube Kids this fall. I will do everything, amusement parks, pajamas, and films, if I continue to operate properly. For many people listening right now, it's the first time they've ever heard of anything called VeeFriends. And I'm hoping one day all their grandchildren are interacting with the intellectual property. And originally I thought I was doing Disney meets Pokemon, and as I've been on this journey, I realized I'm doing Sesame Street meets Pokemon. And why do I say that? I've become incredibly inspired and motivated by Jim Henson's life. I think he had real agenda with Fraggle Rock and the Muppets and Sesame Street, and of course I knew a lot about him. I'm into documentaries, I've seen stuff. I don't think I realized how much my view on the world is similar. And I think, for example, this new kids book, right? Meet Me in the Middle. It's gonna show kids that patience is a great virtue, but too much patience sounds like laziness, right? And eagerness, the eagle, incredibly amazing, but being sloppy with it is a huge mistake. And so I want to teach people the middle. I think parenting looks like politics right now. It's too red or it's too blue. And I think all the magic is in purple.
Well, in the book, you flip it over and you can tell the story twice. It has 2 covers and that literally meets in the middle, the 2 different stories. Was that hard to physically produce? Was the publisher into the idea?
A former creative lead of mine on VeeFriends, Manny, I think his wife, if I remember right, or someone in his world, had done a Meet Me in the Middle book, and there's probably an official term to it. I always wanted the book to be called Meet Me in the Middle. The story was, so VeeFriends is, I don't want to eat up all the time on this, but VeeFriends is a pretty cool IP. Like, I view good virtues as very important. I view bad virtues as something you really should, for your own self, let alone the people around you, work on, whether through exercise, meditation, therapy, reading, surrounding yourselves with different people. I think living a content life is worth fighting for. And so the middle concept was always there. And when I created VeeFriends, I always thought that just tenacity isn't enough. I always think of virtues as ingredients. It's like a good meal. I believe my ambition is a big part of why things have worked for me, but quietly, and maybe not as obvious to the outside world, but definitely more obvious to the people that work with me, I would argue that along with my ambition, competitiveness and tenacity, that humility and patience have been equal ingredients to why I've gotten here. And I think when you think about ambition and tenacity and humility they seem to be potentially contradictions, but I think they're meeting in the middle. Or another analogy I've used is they're bridges, right? They're pulling from opposite directions, which creates strength. So when I created the VeeFriends, I created 280 characters because I feel like you need multiple traits to accomplish the mission. If I'm gonna help this kid be a happier human, it's going to be accountability and kindness to themselves. And so kind could do and accountable ant need to be in that cartoon, that movie, that story. So the concept of the kids book was always gonna be multiple VeeFriends helping teach you that the middle is good, not the edges. And I do believe parenting, society, politics, culture, business, separation of wealth, and many of the things that are going on in our world are an issue right now because we've all broken apart to the edges instead of playing in the middle. And so that was always the agenda. I didn't realize there was a really fun book way, a flip book from both sides to do it.
Literally.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I said something the other day to my team in a meeting. I'm like, wait a minute, this Meet Me in the Middle can be like a dummy series for me. I can call them all Meet Me in the Middle.
Yeah.
And this one is obviously eagerness and patience, and the next one could be cynicism and optimism, and the next one can be tenacity and, you know, and patience or perspective, like, you know.
Pride and humility. Gary, last thing before we let you go, we always ask our guests, do you have a try this at home suggestion that just an ordinary listener can do on an ordinary day to make themselves happier, healthier, more productive, or more creative?
God, I have so many. Let me give you a couple things that have worked recently. I'll go with my one that I think is massive, and I'd like everybody who's listening right now to do it along with you. I'm actually gonna do it. I want everyone to take an extremely deep breath. Actually, Liz, Gretchen, please do this with me. I mean,
Okay.
like to the point of like as far as you can go. Let's start with that.
Right.
And now I want you to smile. Like actually, like mean it. I don't know what it is about that move. I mean, I know that there's a lot of science behind breathing, but I have a text community, and I text that like once or twice a year, and I am blown away by the texts that I get in response. I can tell you honestly, with no baloney, that I feel a little bit better right this nanosecond, because I'm already 2.5 hours into my workday and having 3,000 employees in all these different businesses. I can tell you I've had plenty of stressed meetings the last 3 hours. And again, there's people that understand the science of breathing dramatically more than me, but I believe that if you take a deep breath, smile, and say the next sentence, this is the final part, when I'm 90, I'm not gonna care about this. There's something about the physical, the breathing, and the mental perspective of whatever you're stressed with becoming a little less powerful. And I'm talking real stuff, going through a divorce, losing your job, you know, having an alcoholic father. I'm talking real stuff. I'm not talking mundane stuff. Even those things can go from an 11 to a 7 with that simple action for a couple of hours or a day. And so I've become very happy with that action, and I really do believe that 3 or 4 people are gonna seek me out and email me from this podcast. The breath, the smile, and I'm not gonna care about this when I'm 90 is a very modern move that I think can help a lot of people.
Excellent.
I'm gonna start doing that every day.
Yeah,
Liz,
When I need it.
Liz, Gretchen, don't bull crap me. Did you feel anything with that deep breath smile? Like, did you feel anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
For sure.
It's real.
Yes.
The breathing stuff is real. Anyway.
Well, and it's immediate too, which is nice, because there's so many things that we do unfold over time, and this is something you can do in the moment.
You know what? You know when a cat licks itself? You know, like, you know, I feel like this is a human thing. I mean it. A lot of people are into meditation, my exercise, but my point is, what's great about what I just said is it takes a nanosecond and you can use it, and I've started using it for myself. You can use it when you actually can feel you need it. You know, like in the moment.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So anyway, that's mine, Gretchen.
Excellent. That's great. Well, thanks so much, Gary.
Thank you, ladies.
Congratulations on the book. It's so exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.